Okay. Hello, everybody. Just getting things set up here. All right. Well, let me click through, make sure things are working, and I'll get started with a little Prosperous Universe here. All right. Well, today my plans are to just kind of walk through a day in the life of Archiel Industries, uh, kind of do what I normally do on a day, and then go into a little more depth on some of the things that I would do occasionally. So I've tried to, save a lot of the junk that I do less frequently for everybody to see and enjoy. I did make some notes about some things we can go over today. Uh, Kind of the basics, starting off with all of the ships that have arrived somewhere, what needs to be done with them, and all of the ships that will be sent off. I kind of use the hub and spoke style where most all of my ships go from Ant to a planet and then back to Ant again to kind of centralize all of the logistic efforts. There's a couple exceptions to that, and the two exceptions would be the Thalassa STL ship, which just bounces around between the 3 planets in that system that I have for carbon, hyphs, and creating rations. And the other system that I do things with that is Nyx, and that's got three planets in it. Nyx B is chemistry and laboratories. Nyx C is 3D printers, and Nyx D is software. And what I'll do usually is I'll fly one ship all the way out there, then have the STL ship bounce around between the 3 planets, so the FTL ship only has to visit one of them to refill them all. So let's see. Usually what I do first is the easy stuff, which is starting off, going through all my ships and taking the planets that are at places other than Antares. So my basic screen setup for all of my screens is I try to fit 3 or 4 bases in each screen because otherwise it's way too many screens. And over the bases, over the time, it gets kind of cluttered and they stop making a ton of sense. So they have to be reorganized. So EXTs and EXT2s kind of started off as, oh, these are planets where I'm just extracting stuff, which are really easy to manage. You can fit 4 of them on a screen. It's not always the case that that's exactly how they end up working out. Like they might diversify a little bit. Like, hey, this is lithium ore, but we're going to turn it right into lithium there. It's still a pretty easy planet to run. Doesn't really need much intervention. So this morning I actually don't have a ton of ships out. We just have the one. We'll check out what's going on in Thalassa. Okay, so Thalassa A tends to be the dumping ground. Let's go. Oh, okay, so these 4 planets here. Ice Station Alpha, one of the best water planets in the game, produces a ton of water. You just ship it in system either to Thalassa B, which runs hyphs, and it'll take pretty large amounts of water on the hydroponic farms, pretty large amounts of water, and turns it into a mixture of usually HCP, maize, and vegetables. And I buy my mushrooms from someone in Corp, and between the 3 of those, there you can make pretty large amounts of rations. And whatever's left goes to Thalassa D, where the incinerators are, and then I batch up everything on Thalassa A, and then I'll send like a 5K ship to go pick that up. So, oh, there's one here. All right, great. So we can load it up. Uh, Usually what I try to do is I usually try to favor the rations and drinking water, and then fill whatever I can with carbon. And there's a full ship. That should be a lovely collection that we can send back to Antares. So we'll send that off, and then the STL ship, um, it's not always busy. It can sit around idle. Um, we'll probably send it to B here because that's at least a full load of crops. And yeah, it's nice. Even at low fuel levels, you're getting 19-minute flights here in the inner planets. So cut that down. It's even better. So we are a little low on mushrooms here. I usually will go through burn rates. Um, my default settings for burn are to try to get 40 days worth of consumables on each planet, but that obviously doesn't work for things that are heavy like ore or even crops. So you do what you can there and just kind of roll with it. So we'll send off one of these smaller ships. They're low on mushrooms. Fill them up. Don't need anything else. Mostly we just need to haul back some carbon. So we need more STL ships going through there. All right. All right, now let's take a look at what's going on Hef. I have two planets that I consider to be like the top of my triangle of production. And those two planets are Nike, making in PP4s, it'll make AFABs. And at Hef, I make a bunch of ship components and other random stuff. And those planets both need a lot of babysitting. And if I click on this burn, you'll see why. Um, Let me know if so I can zoom in if the text isn't readable on the stream, I can zoom in a little bit, but there's only so much I can do and still be able to actually play the game. So that's going to be a bit of a limiting factor for sure. So we can fill up consumables here. You can see the consumables. Drinking water's at 14 days, etc., etc. There's no rush to deal with that, but we'll use an XIT action to fill all those up. But what I really try to watch for is the stuff that is lower than that. Like the stuff, like Hef needs a ship coming in just about every day to deal with production. And unfortunately, I've got one here that couldn't unload. What we're going to do is we're going to try to get the bronze off of that. The planet is full. We have a ton of nozzles made, so we are going to try to turn some of those into FSEs. And I see that that's going to tick over in 2 hours and 20 minutes. So let's take the nozzles off and just get as many FSEs going as possible. Each one of them will take 25 bronze out of the storage. So that'll help with the constant problem of this planet just being full of stuff all the time. I also did just take yesterday a big delivery of BGO, blue gold, on this planet. And blue gold is 20 tons per unit, so that adds up really fast. So when you get desperate for storage, I often find myself doing something like this where it's just like, yeah, I'm just going to queue up the max amount of something so it can pull that stuff out of storage and I don't have to worry about it. So looking back at the burn, we're up to 2 days now with the adjustments. Tungsten W is always a supply challenge for me. I feel like that's just kind of cleaning up. SRPs are one of the ship shields that we make. So tungsten, tantalum. This thing, honestly, this thing I do not keep busy all of the time. It is just too much to feed sometimes. But if I can get these ATPs unloaded, then we can actually have a little bit of variety coming out of that building, and that'll help. So I think the warehouse is full here. The warehouse is pretty full. We can get something heavy. We can throw a little blue gold in there, and that'll help. Yeah, it's this is a organizational nightmare to keep this thing running, because there's just so much. And I hate to park HCB ships in orbit as like temporary storage, but it has to happen sometimes. So there you go. These ships are really just storage. And I've even considered that you just take a HCB ship, don't put anything on it, and bam, you have extra storage on the planet, because it's way too expensive to add more STOs on the planet. So, this actually, a BRS, CQL, HCB, some plates, and a throwaway engine. Like, I don't know, something to think about. It's a little silly. But one reason this planet is perpetually full is that it also needs to store, it has a shipyard, so it needs to store the stuff for the shipbuilding. So there's usually, up in this ship construction section, there's usually a couple ships worth of parts here that are ready for sale. Right now we are short on mostly just the FSEs, because the bridge and the crew quarters are sitting on Ant, just waiting to be shipped. So let's get this 2K ship out of here, get it back to Antares to do the loop. Hey, we got faction contracts. Let's take a look at these. They are all from Antares Logistic Officer. So as soon as you see that, you know you didn't get anything. You didn't get any of the really good ones. Like the Antares Head of Excellence is what you'd really be happy to get. So the three things, my rule of thumb, all right. So I am at 879 faction points now. If you want to do your comparisons between like what you get at 100 or wherever you're at, this leaderboard tends not to load. We'll give it a couple clicks and see if it works. So at 879, this is kind of what I'm getting here. All right, shipment from Nike to Ant, 2 faction points. I'd always take the 2s in the past, before the most recent change. It's worth nothing, but like I have a ship at Nike every day. That's my HQ. So this is usually the no-brainer I would pick. This contract here is Nike to Harmonia. Same kind of thing. No reason to pick it because this one's better. We do have here one of the items with the new payouts. So that is not too bad. We have pretty good. Let's look up the price of gas vents. So you're paying 2,700 for gas vents times 55. All right, so 148K, which is already less than the 172 you get for that payout. So this is pretty good. 25,800 fuel. SF is what, like 13 these days? Oops. All right, I heard we lost audio. Um, let's do a quick check. Oh, oh. It's showing up in ODB. Is it better? All right, I don't know what happened. Cool. Thank you for letting me know. Back in action. I just fiddled with the headset. Yeah. Um. So yeah, getting up in the faction, like you kind of just want to hope for the big ones. But after the money change has happened, I have been yeah. So you want to hope for the 20 pointer for repairing a ship or building a ship, or the 50 pointer for being a governor, and that's what's going to really move you around on the leaderboards. But failing that, like I used to always try to do the twos instead of the ones, um, just to try to keep up with the very few number of people who are doing this competitively. But you know, now I'll just take the cash. I'll cash in. I don't mind. All right, so the contract was for gas valves, and it turns out we already have a bunch of them in stock. They said 55. We've got 86. So yeah, let's do it. And that is going to Vulcan. So Vulcan is one of my smelting planets. Oh, so we have one embarrassing messed up planet here. So this one got shifted, and making wall and CTF at this ratio will be fine. It was just out of sync with production because the hull welding plant is sneaking off with some extra CTF or extra wall, and that is pulling it out of balance. So this one occasionally requires adjusting. All right, what does Vulcan need? Vulcan is in okay shape here. It's overproducing steel, which is weird because it's not going to run out of iron. I don't know what the burn is trying to tell me here. Oh, it's the FAL. So this planet would benefit from. I think the only reason it's running FAL is that it is ran out of tungsten, and I did just have more tungsten come in. So we'll ship tungsten over and switch this back to wall and CTF. And we'll do a little extra. All right, we got SI. SI is in place here. Yes, and it's not being produced. We'll try to burn through that to try to keep the inputs going. Yeah, I'm really enthusiastic that the faction contracts have changed in a way to make them interesting, because I think 99% of players after their first couple weeks of play decided to just completely ignore the mechanic. And, I kept feeding the dumb thing with the expectation that faction points would be useful for something, like anything. Uh, and hey, it like actually finally happened. All right, so Vulcan is down to like 17 days, which is, you know, we're sending a ship out. Let's go ahead and run a base resupply on it. So if you haven't used XIT action, this I thoroughly recommend it. Uh, Pickles is the name of this ship. So preview. All right, we're gonna do it. Then we just kind of click through here and make the magic happen. It'll fill up everything up to 40 days. Consumables, workforce consumables only. There's no way to. I have another action that will send production consumables, but you have to run that separately because you can't send 40 days worth of aluminum ore over somewhere. So we'll max the rest of that out with silicon ore, because Si is something we are always short on. All right, so there's a faction contract that'll be handled. Let's refuel. Same thing, I use the actions for refueling, which is like, okay, so how I used to refuel would be I have a special screen for it. And I'd go in here, and each one of these is one of the fuel tanks. And you find the fuel, and then when you drag it, it'll turn, you'll have the blue icons on everything that needs fuel. So you'll go through all of them one at a time. And that isn't too bad. Um, it's a lot of work to set that up, but once you have it set up, like it's pretty workable. But now that we have refuel actions, that's definitely a better experience for dealing with this quantity of ships and getting them fueled. So get all those guys fueled up. Everything that's parked at Ant, at least. Then the next thing that I usually do is I will go through the big. You guys, this list. I know this looks awful, right? There are so many planets at 0 days. Um, there's nothing. There is nothing that I can do about it. Uh, it is the things I have worked. 40 days is the goal, and you can see that like on Norwick the consumables are at 40 days, and mostly what it means is that these are special case pain in the ass planets that need to be rebalanced periodically. So Norwick is like it's making Mia and it doesn't have any FIM. All that means is like you turn on and off the Mia periodically. So we'll just go do that, and now Norwick is fine for probably 20 days. Like who knows? Like okay, we got another 5 days out of it, so like we can ignore Norwick. And it's the same kind of thing. At Sonos Malum is another food planet, and that one is doing coffee. And there are 38 calf left. So in order to make Burn happy, I'll go in here and I'll just queue up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the last 3. So that's non-repeating orders. So that'll use up all the caffeinated beans, and then it'll go back to the rations and water, which it is in pretty good shape to keep doing that. I usually don't. I usually don't have downtime. I will. If you look at this place, like I'll queue up drinking water and coffee, and it'll run out of coffee, and then you'll have 20, what is this? Okay, 26, you'll have 25 slots doing drinking water and one of them halted on coffee. And that's a lot better than having the whole line halted. That's a way to deal with it in a very lazy way when you just don't notice something like that. And when you have 30 bases, having a single building on a couple bases stopped like isn't a big deal. I rarely have halts. There are a couple problem planets or problem buildings that will get halted on me. The spacecraft prefab plant is something I just don't need to run all the time. Um, I used to have my propulsion factories halting, uh, which like if you're constantly churning out QCRs, that's that's just way too much shipping to be reasonable. Or I mean, way too much production to be reasonable. Like nobody in the universe is buying that many QCRs. If you're making FSEs, you also have to make the nozzles. And if you start mixing in um, hyperpower reactors, which I'll usually do some of those, like their production time is so long that as 4.5 days. That like you can keep those busy. So I'm actually backlogged on spacecraft propulsion facilities now, so that doesn't get halted. If I mess up on SME planet, like 648, SE 648 kind of stops sometimes because it it doesn't have any extractors on it. It's just smelting, and the sheer amount of shipping is easy to just not notice and forget about. Also, it's like smelting planet 4 or 5 on my list, so it just gets forgotten about. But you can see here, like it needs some ALO. So we better send a ship because I'll forget. So really nice to have the new features where you can just click on things in order to do orders like that. So buy a little of that, send it over. 648A, click 15 hours. I've been trying to drop this mostly because of the damage rating that you can get reduced at lower reactors. Depending on the route, dropping your reactor usage can be a pretty huge change, pretty huge improvement in repair times. So, yep, that'll be good, and that's a full ship worth of aluminum anyway, so we need that ship coming back. So let's see if there's any other crises here. Astraeus is sometimes a pain in the butt, and that's kind of just because of the appliance factories here. Like appliance factories, especially if you're trying to do a variety with them, it can be tough. So let's take a look. I have it making power tools at the BMPs, which I think I'm going to cancel that. I only have a little steel in storage. So let's cancel that and just do iodine. I do have a planet dedicated to MHL production. I've been making MHL for like 2 years straight. It's a very lumpy thing, and you know, you'll have a bunch of it and it'll sell. Like it always sells eventually. So, and there is an MHL crisis a little bit right now, where occasionally there's nothing up here. Right now there's a good amount, but the prices are still pretty high. So we're at 6,000. Like my old price, my corp price is like 2,800, or it used to be. So it's pretty good there. But almost all of the MHL that I make, I got 480 in stock. Like that usually gets offered to the corp first, because I think moving from farms to hive farms are something like it's a really good move in terms of production per permit. So want to encourage that. We got a question for workforce consumables. Am I vertical? No, not really, not at all. I make I make I almost always make my own rat. The rations, I think I'm vertical on. Drinking water, I definitely have an excess of drinking water. For rations, I think it depends on if I'm getting mushrooms from people in the corp. If I get mushrooms, then it's, yeah, no problem. Drinks, calm, ale, and wine, definitely not. I buy a lot of calm. The overalls and PWO, like I'll make those sometimes. I'll probably usually buy them. It's kind of just a matter of like what gets prioritized in these BMPs, which is definitely going to be CLI, making iodine. So that part tends not to happen. The weirder stuff, so VG is like, I make enough VG to supply the whole world, I'm pretty sure, just because that's what the machines make when they're idle. So, like, even right now, okay, yeah, so there's 5,000 VG here. I put a smaller amount up here. That was a pretty small, okay, so you can look at this, like this one. You know, people really buy such small amounts of it. Like, who are these people ordering like 1 VG? I mean, come on, guys. I got thousands of this stuff to move. This order, you can see this order, this order 400 days old. Uh, so over a year, this was posted, a year and a half ago or whatever. So this stuff, got to keep that moving. In fact, let's just go ahead and post a little more. I don't like to drive down the price too much because it is a pain to make. But and sometimes I'll send the VG to other. I don't do a lot of cross CX trading. Um, it's Antares is the best region, so like why would I? But if I have to unload stuff, I guess it would make sense to like go over there. So if I remember, next time I send ships out to those other places, I'll include some. But there's also no shortage of supply in the other regions. So other workforce consumables like I don't make med. I have in the past. I buy a lot of med. So yeah. What are the other ones? Like, oh, clothing. I went kind of nuts on clothing. So you can see there's 2,000 HMS and 4,000 HSS. The reason for that is that I had to build clothing factories to prep for the gateways because they will be making the monofilament fiber things, but the space tethers. And I built them, and then it didn't come out. So I just said, oh, I'll just keep making HSS and HMS and lab coats there. And now I have too many, and I had to shut them down because I have a lifetime supply. Yeah. So that's how those items go. All right. So what else do we got to ship to this planet? It wants FC probably for the ACS, right? Yeah. All right. So I usually will fill up the other consumables by hand because sometimes it'll be like, oh, maybe I wanna adjust production at this point too of whatever the planet's making. And sometimes there'll be some of these like electronic components are harder for me to keep in stock. It kind of depends. So like, yeah, 100 radios, SAR, I can do 50 SAR. Uh, and all of the appliance factory, um, like these are pretty interchangeable. Like I don't care what they're making, I can swap it around because I have stockpiles of most of it. So we'll send 50 weak AI over there because a lot of them use weak AI. And I try to keep. So yeah, this is mostly iodine. And planets like this, where it's got 4 different building types and 4 different workforce types, are a pain in the ass, and I shouldn't do it. And I should redo this planet. Uh, it's hard it's a manufacturing planet, and it's got the electronicsy manufacturing bits. Small component assembly and medium component assemblies are buildings that you don't need a ton of often. And I used to have them all on Phobos, And that was great because even though they were off COGC, it was just super convenient to be able to have all of that production in one place where it's like, yeah, I'm building my TRNs at the same place that I'm building my sensors, and I'm building my SWFs where I'm building my PCBs, because they all go back and forth on uh, what they're needing. And then, the output of them, the TPUs get used in the ELP, and that's electronics. So like it's back and forth and back and forth. And a lot of times, I think medium component assemblies, I think I only have one in my whole setup, because one is all you need for your 30 planets or whatever. So that's kind of why they're a pain. Uh, and like you can look at this and see like, oh, because they've been reworked kind of recently, Hef has 3 small component assemblies and Astraeus has 2. So like that's a little bit of an organizational pain in the butt that I'd like to redo, but I think I need another manufacturing planet in order for that to happen. Oh, I didn't go through notifications. Oh, there's 24 this morning. All right. So I do have a lot of, at some point I turned on some of the order stuff, so I get a couple extras from that. Ship arrivals. Basically what I'm looking for here, especially since this is like starting out in the morning, I might click on the trades just to see what's happening. I've been trying to buy more stuff outside of Antares and put orders in at other places, because my experience is that like Ant always has the tightest spread on the bid sell spread. So I want to keep that, like, so the prices are always highest in Ant also. And I often have currency that I need to get rid of, other currencies. All right, so we got ship arrivals that we dealt with those earlier. Contract from Malahat. So when you're doing these, you gotta go back and forth. So let's go ahead to Malahat and get that paid out. So if you're not a governor, this is what the governance stuff looks like. I previously sent a contract in AIC and messed it up, so now I have to do it in CIS. So that gets paid. Malahat's doing pretty good, but it's in a little weirder political situation than Phobos. So now that that's sent, we can go here. We got our Malahat money back. So that's always nice. They often all sit on kind of a lot. All right, so here Vac Factory is selling me an MK1 for 770. That's for the Corp. We got Command Bridge 1, BR1. So we got 6 on Ant that we got to ship. But Hef is full, as we had seen earlier today, so they are going to sit there. I'm going to try to do a better job of that. And then here we're getting to old contracts. All right, so I think we're in good shape here. All right. Question from the audience. How important would you say that it is for to have a production for market maker as a higher level player? Boy, that's really interesting. I'll give you 2 answers. The old answer would be that like, yeah, you got to do IDC, have a couple IDC planets, and they make so much money that you kind of have no choice if you want to, if you want to be, I don't know, I want to say be competitive. That's not the right way to phrase it, but like if you want to be aggressive. And that's not the case anymore, and things have really changed. And now I think market makers are usually like a lower, they could be a lower profit than the things that you're actually selling to players because there's a guaranteed market for the market maker, like someone will always buy it. And if you're making stuff like ship parts, they might have to you might have to sit on those or bundle them up, make them in the right ratio, find buyers for it. So you'll probably get more for that, and that is generally true. And now there's a lot of now we have market makers. You know, I make a lot of life support systems, um, and the market maker price is 450 for that. And let's actually see how many I make, because I don't really know. They've maybe been off for a little while. So, okay, zero point 0.5 a day. The nice thing about that is like it's a market maker good, but there's also people who buy it. Okay. I think it's because there's no sound playing that my headphones turn off. Uh, are they back on? But if I play Spotify audio, I'll get in trouble. I'll get a copyright strike. So I need to make the headphones not turn off or something. This is because we have a game with no sound. All right, so I think we're good. Thanks. I'll try to fiddle with it if I remember, or fix that for the next one. Okay, so LIS market maker. Like that's a really good one because you can use it can be used for production, and it often is. Like people will be making it and make it into ship parts, and like it's a market maker, so you can always sell it, but there's probably better things you can do with it. So I like that. And I've made a lot of CBL, especially like a year ago or more than a year ago. Like I would make a lot of that, and it would all go into LFEs because you can either sell it as CBL and it's actually pretty profitable, or you can turn it into LFEs. And like most of my LFEs are pretty old, and I'm finally burning those all up and finding myself needing to make more because I had just hundreds of them, and I think now I'm down to 26. So it's good to be in a position where you can spend those down slowly over time. I mean, I find that happens with a lot of stuff that I produce too. So yeah, so I think there's a lot of good options, and people want to do drones, and I would love to see more of that. I think uh, some of them are like I think they're plausible as market makers. They're not plausible as population upkeep items too much. Uh, let's see what else we got going on here today. Ooh, let's check repairs. So we still got a couple ships that we can send, especially these kind of. Oh, the VCB usually goes to do helium. So let's do a quick check on that. I'll send that out. Um, I always max out my extraction planets. I see people who will do like, 3 extractors because they just don't need that much helium or whatever. Nope. Always max it out. You'll find a place to sell it. So, so this VCB basically goes back and forth pretty much nonstop to keep this planet empty. So that's a nice setup. Let's take a look at repairs. All right, we got, so I aim for 90 days, but I don't really micromanage repairs. I have no, like it's more important for it to be convenient, I think, than it is to like micromanage it. So Agamemnon is a chemistry planet. We didn't click on chemistry yet. All right, in the world of chemistry, I have Griff is AMLs. There's another AML planet that didn't fit here, and that's the IA-151D. Origo, is my pharma planet, but it also does ETC, and all that ETC goes right into engines, right into rags for QCRs, pretty much. And the EES goes into FERS for the hyperpower reactors. And Agamemnon is, this is a really nice base design. It generates epoxy, but it does its own CL and it does its own HAL. So you barely need to bring in anything for this planet. It is, you bring in your consumables and small amounts of water, hydrogen, oxygen, and you can just forget this planet exists for, as you can see, 30 days at a time, or like 79 days at a time. So I have a repair, resupply action. You just have to set up the 2 groups for it to be the same, and it'll auto do all this. And like, man, I used to do this by hand, and it was awful. And what it would look like would be like, I'd always round up to 100, right? So it'd be 100 BSE, 100 BDA, 2000 INTs, 100 BBH, do the repair, ship it all back, because like typing in the numbers was always super tedious. And sorry, I imagine those beeps are really loud. Sorry, that's Prosperous Universe has 1 volume and it's maximum. So like sending all this stuff over is just so much nicer than it used to be. So there's everything the planet needs, and when I send a planet, I do a quick check for, say, like, oh, does it need hydrogen, oxygen, or water? Carbon? No, it doesn't need any of them. It's like 60 days plus. So let's get that repair started. Hey, 2 hours. Let's do it. Great. XIT repair. What else we got going on here? After Agamemnon is Griff. These are AMLs. Like, so I don't really want them at 90% because the workforce price for them is so high that, like, let's get this repaired and going. So because, not only do you lose the 10% off the production condition, you're actually losing 16% because you're losing that portion of the COGC and experts. So, and because it's got kind of a narrow margin in that the cost for the planet is so high. Maybe I can pull this up for Griff. Not that one. I'm looking for the profitability report for Griffinstone. Okay, so yeah, because the daily cost is so high and the repairs are so high, like even though revenue is not bad-ish, your net profit is low. So being able to add 10% to one of these numbers makes that go from 50,000 to 80,000. And like 80,000 is a little low. That's because right now it's making mostly um, borosilicate for reaction chambers, and the value isn't attributed very evenly across that production chain, because you have FSEs are worth a lot, and they're made out of nozzles, and nozzles are made of combustion chambers, and combustion chambers are made out of borosilicate, and like all of those things are in like a straight line without a lot of variety in them. Like you can put nozzles in other engines, but generally no. So that it makes it look a little weirder than it actually is. Um, so let's get that. I think the actual profit that you could attribute to that planet would be higher, and a lot of it ends up on Hef instead. So it looks like it's a crazy crazy good planet when it's really just relying on the production of others. All right, so it's going to be expensive. Yeah, we got, 120 uh, AFABs to repair, 40 ABH and 24 of the others. But gotta buy some gin, so it beeps at us. I can't keep the drinks in stock. Fim and Mia though, like I've got those in good supply. So there's still some storage space on Griff, so we will ship out some more beryllium, or try to always keep that going. Because obviously, like, it works out really nice, this combination, because beryllium ore makes aluminum, and the borosilicate uses aluminum, and it makes CO. The silicon ore, you just have to convert it into silicon somewhere else. So like, it's a pretty happy planet. You just kind of keep it rolling. All right. Government ledger. Does anyone have any questions or want to see anything in particular? Otherwise, I'm just gonna going down my to-do list. Feel free to shout out if there's anything in particular you want to see. Let's go take a look at where Malahat is at. I'll kind of just do a little review for everybody. Okay. So Malahat overall is in pretty good condition. Um, the thing, so we had a big, as you know, we had a big drop in IDC production, and that meant that we had to really rebalance what people were doing with the planet. And we're in a really good stable place. I usually say like 10% unemployment is a good place to aim for. If it's volatile, you might want to do more. It's really easy to lose like scientists at a crazy rate. Like you can see how much when we needed to recorrect, you can see that there's drops here. Like here's 5,000 scientists gone. Here's 4,000 scientists gone. So like you don't want to not pay attention to it. And what I like to see is like, oh, I don't want crazy growth, so I'm going to try to keep the happiness, above 50%, but not too low, but not too far above 50%. And I want to run education jobs probably to push workers up the tier. And that prevents you from running into explosions of pioneers or settlers or technicians when what you really want are engineers and scientists. So this is pretty much a great position. One thing I see down here is that like we do have education capped on culture. Culture is kind of a culture and comfort tend to be pretty tough. Education tends to be pretty easy. Oh, got a question. I'll come back to that. after I double check everything going on with Malahat. So let's open up the Malahat ledger. So I'm very, very diligent with Malahat and Phobos to always always log everything that gets contributed and always take a screenshot of it, because we had a lot of like, you can go ahead, click on a screenshot, say like, okay, 50 HD, 15 IDC, and then make sure that like 50 HD, 15 IDC is, correct. So like I want it to be always accountable that these are correct values. And let's see, we got, all right, so everything got filled up here pretty recently. And okay, so if I did this recently, that means I need to do Phobos. So we'll come back to Phobos. Library is empty, but we're capped on education, so it doesn't matter. Comfort was low, and it probably needs, the two comfort buildings are, so the park, of course, you'll always fill drinking water and PFE and maybe soil. Check and the 40A is another, like, Malahat doesn't have a lot. It only has one of them, I think. Two of them. So I think this is probably where comfort is going to sit at. I think that would be the other option. And to be super diligent, we're going to check the governor helper on that. And we're not going to wait for it all to load. We're just going to go to the material price look. So what are the cheapest mats for comfort? That is the top. It's sorted here. So we have the hog and the EDC in the 40A. I was going to fill the ULF in the 40A. That's down at $7 per comfort. Like, that's not awful, but it's not ideal. So I do have hog and EDC filled here, and that's the next cheapest item. So that's the next best choice. Soil in the park and FOD in the park would be a better choice. So we don't have FOD in stock, and traditionally FOD is kind of tough to come by, but let's send a ship to Malahat with more soil, some FOD. I need ROM for the neural networks, so we'll do that. I think, so MHP and ULF, the olfactory substances, actually, like, they're really good in some buildings and really not good in other buildings, but they're in a ton of buildings, so that's something to watch for. All right, so let's send a ship to Malahat. Like, it's kind of a thing we got to do constantly. We'll send one of the good ships are at the top. The ships get kind of crappier or weirder at the bottom because they were built over such a long time. They're actually like pretty different from each other. Okay, so we need soil. That's not a lot of soil. And like under 600, like that's fine for soil. Like we can do under 600 bucks. So let's send all that soil. I haven't bought FOD in like forever. Let's check those prices. So our FOD is marked at 410, and that's its efficiency at 410. So you can buy it at a higher price, but it'll be the dollar per comfort drops. And 410 is here, 450 is here. Like we can buy 500 FOD. And what I used to do to help with liquidity issues as governor is, like, I would track these when they're being purchased and put them in the sheet as like, hey, this is purchased now and it's reserved for Malahat and I can get paid now for it. It's just too much to track. Like the only option that is really viable for me is to put just to buy it, ship it, and then get paid for it when it arrives. So as a governor, you end up holding a ton of stock in random things, and sometimes you get stuck like, oh, you'll buy a ton of deck, because deck can be used in a couple different places, and then you find out like, oh, it's not cost efficient to do deck at these prices, and you're just stuck with a bunch of plastic decorations on Malahat waiting for like, what do I do with this? Because I don't want to like ship it, like I guess I just ship it back and do something else with it. So like that's one of the challenges of being a governor, especially a small planets. Like all they need is drinking water, and they're super easy to deal with. Um, but that stops kind of being the case for when the planet gets big and you need to put in the weird stuff or the electronics stuff as upkeep. All right, I feel like I'm for. Oh, the ROM. I need to bring a ROM. Because I want to. I have a bunch of NN here, and there's 10 more to convert. Um, the planet is like mostly like ideally it would be mostly doing Y, but weak AI, but it can always run IDC and it still makes good money doing that. The other thing I need to bring to Malahat is COGC mats. So we have PE, we could do a little more MCG because it eats like 2,000 a week, so you don't want to fall back too far on that. It does eat a bunch of rations. Ship's just about full. Um, oh, I want a hospital. All right, so let's talk hospitals, guys. This is fun. Hospitals are now in really good shape. The PK price, also this like last week, this was up at the top, but this is live with live prices. Like Band-Aids in a hospital are great. They're better than the INF buildings. Um, so, like, yeah, there's the upfront cost of hospitals. Plus, you get a little more ability to fine tune, because when you have 10 of the INFs, your choices are to fill a third, a third, a third, and that's it. Like that's the amount of granularity you have. If you mix that up with a couple hospitals, then you have more granularity there. And I don't know, it'd be fun to do something more interesting than just dumping office supplies in the infirmary. Uh, but so, and also 10 in, uh, 10 of them is like sometimes not enough on big planets like Phobos, and like you start to be in a situation where you need to build hospitals or you need to build the drone safety buildings instead of the SSTs. Where's my so oh, security drone post? Except everything in the security drone post really sucks, unlike the hospital. So I'm working towards a hospital. I have surgery units. I don't have a DOU here yet. I have TCUs on Nike. All right, so we're gonna come back to this, guys. A couple weeks, we'll see a hospital on Malahat. So let's get this out there. And I don't think we're in a rush, so we can slow it down a little. Question from the audience we had was, how do you deal with illiquidity? I have a problem where I have sales within 48 hours. I struggle to maintain capital to the point where I have 2 permits free at HQ 22. Oh, okay. Yeah, I do. I hold a lot of stock. I have 144 million in the bank right now, so I guess you could say liquidity isn't really an issue. Sorry, I can't relate. Um, I don't know. Like the thing is, um, 3 weeks ago I was at 70 million, so it is a really big cash buffer, and it does bounce around a lot depending on what's going on. Especially in ship sales and especially with shielded ships. For those of you in the audience who aren't in OOG, the shielded ships are, I think, a lot of people in the corp are using them, and they they just get so many more flights per repair, and their cost of running is lower than the standard LHP 2K ship. Like your actual running costs are lower because of the way that the repair mechanics work, and I can go into that like in a little more detail. But you can fly Ant to Nyx and take, like let's drop the reactor usage down. Take 0.1% damage, whereas if you did that in a different ship, it would be like, let's see, the standard like 2K with an STS, sure. All right, so this is 700 units of fuel, of FTL fuel. Try to make the timeline up. 19 hours. Let's make the timeline up. 19 hours. 2 days, 19 hours. 2 days, 19 hours. Yeah, so you see that they'll end up with like 4 times the amount of damage, depending on like which regions you're going through. That can be higher. I've often had it be like a 10x difference. So anyway, what I was trying to say with that is like these ships are super expensive. So if I have 3 of these in stock, that might be 50 million in stock. And I'm kind of lazy, so dealing with the large stocks and getting out of there, getting out to actually put these ships up for sale, like just doesn't always happen. And there'll be a lot of cases where I'm in a situation where it's like let's look at the ship stock. So 80 MFE, 26 LFE, like that's a ton. 113 SFE, like these field emitters, like they're not super expensive, but you sit on a huge amount of them. Fuel tanks right now, 26 of these, 17 of these, like that's a lot of. The warehouse is 15 LCBs, so it's just full of like components, but at the same time there's 0 FSCs. And the higher HYR, these things are $1.5 million a pop. So like you do sit on a lot of money holding ship components, and trying to balance them out and trying to get like somebody who like if somebody quits the game and you suddenly just don't have any fuel tanks, you're in trouble. So that part of the liquidity can be challenging. I think it's just something you build up. Like the first thing you want to do as a new player, you want to, once you get your production going and you're in a happy spot, then you can kind of have your workforce consumables. You can get that up to a place where they're in 10 days per planet or something like that, and then you're a lot less stressed about getting ships out to places. And building up the buffer of production for selling things is a way to do that. Is furthering that goal, I think. And I am in a position where like let's look at the helium. Like I'm in a position where like, oh whoops, I have tens and tens of thousands of helium, and I don't really need to sell it. I can do whatever I want with it. As a new player, like you might need to sell stuff like that into bids in order to just have the operating currency in order to do that. But Paul, to kind of keep going with that question, like if you have good production, someone will probably get you loans. So you've got that capital to fill your free permits. At, at 22, where's the HQ cal? 22 is still like a pretty happy place for making headquarters, like new headquarters, so your permits aren't too expensive. Um, let me try to get the calculator up for that because I forget exactly. HQ upgrade calculator. So are you into the? So you are okay. So you are starting the AFAB. So like you gotta start throwing stuff. So 13 million. That's okay. That's kind of getting expensive. So 13 million is certainly more than you would be spending on those bases. And like it sounds like you're still at a point where you need to be thinking about what like am I making things that will actually sell in a reasonable amount of time? Um, and yeah, that's a place where you can lean on uh, bigger players who can buy your stuff up front. Um, I find myself willing to buy pretty much anything from anyone if the price is even remotely close to the CX price. Like, 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 like if you really want to unload something on me, I'll probably buy it. And yeah, yeah, and like yeah, market makers do help with that. Especially like we used to be in the position where a person would make one IDC base and that would like fund all of their other bases. Like they would have the liquidity to not go underwater no matter how much they messed up the other bases. Uh, and that's, like IDC is still worth good money. I don't know if it's quite, it's just not, permit wise, it's just not 3x what the other options were. But it's still one of the best options. And let's see if we can. I think there's an article about it that I had written. Um, or there's oh, okay, yeah, okay. So this data is pretty old. I bet. Oh, wait, let's hold on a second. This was one of the earlier nerfs. Yeah, so we're down from that. So these base area these numbers are way too high for IDC. But last time I looked, and I have something posted in the Discord, like you still wouldn't go wrong with an IDC base if you want that liquidity from a market maker, and you want to do it without having a lot of bases. Because if you're doing drones, you're going to need a handful of bases and stuff like that. Um, I do think a lot of the like SAR like that. You should check. You can check Prun Planner for like what SAR is coming up as, but like I do find myself short on. So let's see. I have a lot of BMF, but I don't have any BWS right now. Like I do make that. Like all of these components, like I will run low on, and I think that those are pretty good, reliable things, or becoming more reliable for production and selling at the market. Like I don't know what's so like sensors. Like okay, so I'm buying sensors apparently at 720. There are big orders at 8. Um, okay, we got a little action on the chart. Let's see, trn.a1. Like I think, yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of good options in the electronics tree for things that will actually move. So like, yeah, 7 days, we have 10,000 units of sensors moved. Like, yeah, that seems. But like, if you want for a player who's even newer, if I were to give advice, it would still be like drinking water is definitely gonna sell, uh, and that's definitely gonna go quickly and have a good markup versus like getting right into electronics. And like metals have always been a little like metals have been tough for people for a long time. So I think foodstuffs are solid. With the amount of bases you're running, is single permit versus multi-permit something to think about? Uh, yeah. There are people who get up to the really high HQ count and they find themselves wanting to like do multi-permit in order to just reduce the um, overhead. I do not multi-permit anywhere except Nike, and Nike is the place with the corp HQ. So basically, I just want that extra 10%, as much action as I can out of that 10%. And ideally, uh, the efficiency bonuses are higher, are more valuable when you're using a higher tier population, because you're reducing the workforce cost of everything that gets built by, in this case, 10%. Uh, and by reducing that workforce cost, it's less consumable. It's the consumables aren't made, so you want to, and you can see here that like I have PP2s and PP3s where like ideally Nike would be like all PP4s, and the UPF would be somewhere else too, ideally. Um, so like I could utilize this better, but there's the convenience of like this is my main construction planet where everything gets dumped, and because AFABs will use LDEs and RFABs, like it's just so convenient not to have to ship them around. You can just build and consume them all on one planet. So that's the way Nike is set up like that. Otherwise, I do single permit just because my permits are so expensive that I can't justify it to myself, the convenience of I try to get my convenience in other places, basically, by being smart with planet setups, and that would help me save time, hopefully. Uh, but I think it's a totally valid strategy to multi-permit as you get bigger, if it makes things easier for you from a logistics point of view. Because the number one reason for burnout in this game is like too many clicks, right? Like it's just too many clicks to do what I need to do all the time. So yeah, yeah, maybe we'll get. Oh, like that's the thing. Like 36K for a SAR, it's just so expensive. And what do they? I guess they mostly end up in bridges for me or ACS. Yeah, maybe I'll buy some. We'll see. I'll think about it. Real Bandit had a question about gateway stock and contributions. Everything in here is the gateway. So I am pretty diligent. Like let's go over some gateway stuff. So I knew that I would need a system where I can still use, I produce AFABs for my own use, and I'm collecting a bunch for the gateway, but they're going to be intermingled because they're indistinguishable goods, and I need a way to like be able to make sure I don't accidentally use gateway stuff in a way that gets me in trouble, or like I can't account for them. So the way that works is I periodically audit. Uh, so people make like I'll just kind of give an overview of how the gateway project works for people in our audience who aren't familiar. Uh, First, people come in and they make pledges. That says that like, hey, I promise I'm gonna, or like it's more of an intent thing. It's like I intend to make these items, like Archiel. I am intending to make SPTs, which are the space tethers. Uh, the cost assigned to them is 3 million, and I can't make them yet because they're not released, so I have 0 of them so far. Solar panels, 13,000 of them. I have contributed 13,000. So you can see Melon has offered to make 3,000 PSH and has made and contributed 1,200 of them. So we keep track of that. And then when they actually come into the project, I list them in this big old list here, where it's like, oh, on this date, so-and-so contributed this number. And those all get summed up and put up on the top, where we have like, okay, how many of RTAs? We need 1,000. 937 have been pledged, so someone can volunteer to make more. And then the delivered amount is 837. So I need to go into this little balance sheet here where I'll put in my stock periodically. So I did this 4 days ago. And I said like, okay, on Antares, I have 2,697 LBH. People have contributed 2,000 of them. That means 697 of whatever's in here is mine for my use. Like it's stuff that I just made at Nike or bought. And you know, sometimes they get short because I use them without paying attention, and then I'm responsible for filling that in. And like LDE is at 758, so I'll go punch that in. And now like it's short 42. And the reason it's short is just because I need to ship them from Nike back to Antares to make up for what got used. So usually what I do is like I say like, oh hey, like this is the number of AFABs that are actually mine. And can I do an HQ upgrade based on what is actually not gateway? Or I can say like, oh, I have, you know, 844 extra ADE because I have a lot of Kevlar and I make them nonstop. Like, can I put my supply into here? And it says like, oh no, we have too many ADE already. Usually this happens because someone is filling a pledge after someone who pledged late or contributed late put in some. So like, you know, it's fine generally. These things happen even with, like the pledge system is just for reserving production. So you don't end up with 2 people making, you know, 10,000 lit each. And then you find out that like there's more lit than the universe could ever use because it wasn't coordinated. So like small overages like this are fine, and will go into the next gateway. They just roll into the next gateway that gets added to the project. So from a liquidity point of view, I mostly just pretend that these items don't, you know, the gateway items mostly don't exist, that I can take a look at this sheet and make sure that I can account for everything in there. There's usually always overages. Let's see, let me look at. All right, so trusses. This one was already taken care of. 17631. So yeah, we have an extra 1,000 trusses. And then you just I kind of go through those. And we are also, I guess I will share that, we are also in really good shape with the cash allocations. Cash allocations are handled in a similar way where I keep track of everybody who contributed. These are people who had interest in contributing. These are people who actually contributed the amount. And then we take and allocate them all out of one pool so it can be fairly allocated. So it's not like, hey, I used your cash to buy something really cost efficient and I used your cash to buy something cost inefficient. So this person suffers while this person, like their cash is worth more. It all goes into one pool, and we're in pretty good shape for the number of shares that were bought with the cash that was contributed. And you know, 99.9% of it has been allocated with the purchases that were made on the CX of things that we were short on. And the same and that's it. The system for that works really well. Microphone fixed. Okay, I just got to do that. Thank you for the warning. Of the numbers that were contributed for solar panels, for the numbers that were contributed for solar panels, 13,400 of them are my responsibility at 44 million. Like I got that. That's the cash I got for them, or maybe a little less cash depending on how that worked out. And that cash ends up being solar panels that are in my name. So I've got these solar panels there to keep track of. So that's how I don't get in trouble with the liquidity issues of the gateway stock. Um, I think it's in a pretty good like situation where I can't mess it up as long as even if I slacked on record keeping, you can always go back in and look at the stock and the sheet and figure out what it's supposed to be. So I think it's in pretty good shape in that regard. Um, but I will say we are close to another HQ upgrade. I think I put in bid orders. Yeah, let's take a look at this. Okay. So HQ 35 will happen at 552 ABH. And we're at 300. ADE, we need 360, we have 800. ASE, we need 360, we have 600. ATA, we don't have the ATA. And I think we have ATA orders in just at NC1. Probably the prices there were low. All right, so someone snuck in ahead of me there. Let's look at ATA on Antares, and yeah, you can see the price. The prices are way higher here. So what do we have? We have a million NCC. We can try to keep on top of that a little bit. So we'll see. Those bids are pretty low, so maybe no one will ever fill them. That might just be how it goes. But I think like we could do the HQ upgrade if we wanted to with cash on hand. It's just the ABH, 200 ABH. We could get that all from Harvey and from Allocator, and we could do that. But we'll see. I've got a bid in, but it got beat out. So we'll sit on that because there's not a rush. The next planet will probably be a manufacturing, and let's brighten up that light. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, any other questions? We can do Phobos next otherwise. Stock takes. Oh, where I close all my unfilled bids and asks and replace them at updated prices. Do I ever do that? The answer is no, I never do that. Man, I really should. Hey, let's you know what we can do? Let's look at somewhere in XIT Fin, there is on the balance sheet, it tells me how much money is locked up in CX bids that no one will ever fill ever, right? It's a cash equivalent. It's a deposit. Okay. I think that's what this 200 million number is. So if I just closed all my bids, that would be 200 million. Um, yeah, I mean, boy, I should really do that because I know for a fact that like, okay, let's go ahead and I haven't clicked delete filled in a really long time. We'll see. We'll see what it we'll see what it does. I think it's going to be pretty mad at me because there's a lot of them, and I see it slowly refreshing this page periodically. Yeah, it's really slow. Maybe we can scroll down and see what we can find down here. Because I do have a tendency to like make orders and just kind of like forget about them when they don't get filled. And the thing is, like, a lot of these orders were competitive at the time that they were made. Sometimes they're not because I want to put in an order that. So, like, sometimes someone will quit the game and they'll just dump everything. And we've seen that with, somebody will dump 100,000 rations and it'll go all the way down to, like, the market maker. So it's nice to have stuff in place to catch people who are just dumping and don't care about the price. So I'll do that very rarely. Yeah, it's going crazy. But like when I put a buy in for something and I need it and I don't get it, I just forget about it. And you can see that in the age of some of these guys at the bottom. Like, let's look at like one of these partially filled. Yeah, okay. 871 days old. Yeah. But hey, it had action on it, which means at some point this was the this was the right price. Like this was a competitive price. So I don't know. I guess. Oh, this one's 900 days old. Hey, this guy's liquidated and then he came back. So we've got full circle here on these orders. And there's goofy stuff happening. Okay, yeah, yeah. I don't know. So like, it would be. I've thought about it. So like, what Evo does is he cancels all his bids every week and remakes them all and tracks what was like bought and sold on them. And that means he tracks like which things he actually wants to buy in some way, which does not end up happening for me very much. So that's I don't know. That would be I like if I'm gonna do it, I feel like I need a sheet or a piece of software that is gonna help me manage them because I just can't, like, oh, let me think of all the materials in the game that I might want to like do something with. It's just not going to happen. So we need an organizational tool before I do something with that. And like I've kind of been thinking about it because like if you do want to play market maker with goods, like I don't know, you can even see allocator here, like has the bids at 400 and the sells at 460, and like I would just not remember to do one side of those unless I had a tool telling me to set up like that as market maker. I do think the spreads in Antares are usually lower than the spreads in Moria, where Low Strife is doing all the market making activity. So, like, is that always true? Nah, but like, especially for especially like looking at AFABs and the things that I want to buy, like the spread in Moria is always higher. Yeah, and the prices in Ant are usually better for sellers at least. Yeah, so that's where that's at. Let's take a look at Phobos because I think I think that one is due for a little bit of managing the buffers. So yeah, I do see some stuff. Let's pull up the population report for y'all to see. All right, so last report. So this is really good. We're at above 70%, so we're getting the natural growth migration. Kind of those are very happy levels. Education is capped on comfort. Like education is very easy to get capped because it's so easy to get large amounts of education. Looking at the balance, I'm actually pretty happy. 126,000 pioneers because it's a starter planet full of noobs. But 15% unemployment, so that's pretty good. Unemployment of 49% is usually like, oh man, that's a terrible red flag. Like that is super high. And let me refocus a little bit. There we go. That's not that's it is high, but because the settler count is so low compared to the pioneer count, that's kind of just what you get. And you can see that we generally have a net decrease in settlers because the unemployment is pulling down the happiness, and that's a pretty good situation to be in. We could pull like if across the board these were close to 50%, we could pull it down faster, but I'm not at all worried about settler count on this planet. Pioneer count would be the guys who would be eating all the food for you, eating all the poppy resources. Likewise, technicians, engineers, and scientists were at a little above 10% unemployment, so this is in really good shape. I think I have an education program queued. We'll check on that. I'd like to keep education running because it allows you to uh, keep relatively keep the upper tiers safe while ablating down the value of the lower tiers. So this is in a pretty good shape, but education is like almost free, so we should keep that running. Otherwise, yeah, we're in pretty good shape here. Let's do a refill, so I can walk everybody through the process. First thing is like, do we need to make any changes to what is being fed in? I think the answer is no, because we were at that like 70% level for everything. Comfort maybe, but probably not. So what I'm gonna do is I am gonna fill all of these, including soil, in the park. We have 8 parks here, and 1 4DA, which doesn't contribute a ton, but you get a little variety there. So yeah, my process for this. Oh, one thing. Okay, so uh, I am low on drinking water and off here. Uh, let's go ahead and check on Phobos storage situation. Nice thing about Phobos is that it's super close to Ant, so if I need more stuff for governance, it's really easy to just ship it over. But sometimes the warehouse is full entirely of drinking water just for the purpose of the governance drinking water. Like if you're a governor somewhere, you do have to keep your extra, like storage is on you. That's a cost that you're just gonna have to bear. It's too intangible to like try to reimburse yourself for the cost of storing a billion everything all the time. So usually I like to ship all that stuff out ahead of time because I do see we have a couple different places taking off office supplies. So we are gonna spend the office supplies there. We're gonna do the drinking water here, and we're gonna come back for the SST after we get some ships back. So I usually try to max them all out. Everything lib is. Do we want to ignore the library? let's go ahead and check the planner for education materials. Yeah, library is pretty far down the list, so we're not going to fill that. We are just going to fill the university. Hospital has great returns on band-aids and painkillers. SEQ, somebody else did that, so that snuck in there. That wasn't us. That happens sometimes. Um, I don't really stress about it. Like sometimes they'll put, random people will put dumb stuff in, and it's like, oops. But that's okay because we don't care. It'll be fine. We're not stressed about it. Just let it happen. They're probably trying to fill a quest or something like that. So what I do with this is I grab this, I take a screenshot every time, upload the screenshot. I'll throw it on the other monitor while I fill in the ledger. So for the ledger, basically what we do is we go over each item that we filled in, which would be, all right, so we got office supplies, we got STR, we got the drinking water, PFE soil, we got 200 more drinking water, the band, the PK, the OLF, OLF. And I put the numbers in for them, which was 750, 70. I'm looking at my other monitor. 101, 512. The drinking water, this was 200. And the only thing you really have to watch out for when you're doing this is make sure you don't run out of drinking water. Don't like put more drinking water on the chart than you actually have. So I put the screenshot in. And lately, like this is kind of overkill, but I've been noting what buildings they come from, just in case that information is ever useful or someone is auditing it and wants like to make it easier on, make it easier on someone who's auditing. We didn't do the CD, we did the bandage, the hospital, and this was in the 4DA. So we'll come back for the SST, and the other thing is that the COGC kicks in 41 minutes, and that's a bunch of drinking water. So we're short on, I sent rations up to, I didn't set rations up to this one. I sent rations to Malahat. So we'll need to send up rations for that also. So like once you have a system for it, like it's still a lot of work, but it's manageable. All right, so let's send another ship to Phobos. We have so many ships. So we can just keep rolling with this. Yeah, the storage is really tough for large planets. Like the one thing about Malahat that was nice is if you're making IDC in Malahat, you don't really care because you're not using the storage for anything. But and yeah, I mean it eats up your personal drinking water supply, and like so make sure. I'm a firm believer in like making sure market rates are represented in what you're signing up, because otherwise you will be just like going through this stuff. Okay, needed drinking water, rations, PE. I think we were a little low on office supplies. Let's double check what else we needed to send up. That ship is just about full. We have sun if we need it. Stretchers, I didn't do stretchers. Yeah, someone else did stretchers. So that's this player. I think they were leaving the game and they donated some stuff. So I don't normally do stretchers. So health might be a little high, because that'll tick one more time. Yeah, I think that's about what we wanted. Like we've had players who are really interested in either the safety drones or hospital stuff, and unfortunately, like it hasn't been part of the game until just now, where hospitals are viable. So, I think that's fun. I think that's good. All right, this will be a good ship. Uh, let's let's see if there's anything we can send to Phobos that we need for our production. Something's at one day. It is PCBs and sensors. So like the PCBs are one of those things that like I don't have a billion extra PCBs. Like I can keep up with it, but I think I would like to overproduce more of some of these things so that I don't have to cut them so close. Like, or I'll have to switch off of PCB. Like you can tell. What are we doing? We don't. I think I'm making MHP here because I was low on POW. So like stuff like that happens, and I don't know. It gets fiddly and it wastes a lot of time. That's Phobos, Hef, and Nike can all kind of get fiddly, and you kind of waste time on that. All right, so we're doing pretty good here. Let's. We checked our gateway stockpiles. We kind of looked at our HQ upgrade. We updated some ledgers. We got more ships coming. The hospital, yeah, hospital building on Malahat. So that is just waiting for this drone operations unit and a TCU. Let's put a TCU in front of the bridges that we have queued up. And like, I don't know, I feel like I should outsource this single UPF because like one UPF, like it's backlogged all the time. It's just like it has RDLs that it needs to make too, like 4 of them, 6 of them. It's that's a couple weeks. So I should get Hal to make those because he's a planet just of UPFs. He's got like 8 UPFs on a planet somewhere. But it's kind of just a logistic thing of like, it's nice to have your own, I guess, but it's hard to manage the logistics of other people sometimes. All right, one more thing I want to check on Hef, make sure those FSEs are gonna start. Okay, so they'll start in 40 minutes. I don't know if we clicked through all of these tabs, so let's make sure nothing is in trouble or stopped. And we also have a new fresh planet over here. This planet, WR, is where I'm making CLI. It's, I think, the second or third best CLI planet in the game. But it is fresh. The COGC is fresh 5 days ago. I built this. Term just started. Population 0, and it is well, we don't have a poppy report yet. Hey, but the safety station, oh, it disappeared. I filled it and it disappeared. Let's try that again. Nope. All right, it's still busted. All right, so can't fill that. We're waiting for the first population report before we can do anything more with this planet. But there's enough storage here for another identical base to this one. That is full EXTs. 20, whatever it is, 20 something. So we'll keep an eye on that. Would I consider buying inputs? Yeah, I buy a lot of inputs. I buy all kinds. I buy a little of everything, which means we should click through these guys and actually fill these. Okay, so this is a ship sale, and sometimes the fuel comes in late. No, I buy tons of stuff. I do buy a bunch of full base, like output of full bases, sponsored bases. I'm buying a lot of blue gold and stuff like that now. Yeah, so consistent buyers are definitely helpful. It's just a matter of lining them up and making sure they stick around. Let's see what else. I can also check out. Let's update the stockpile for the ships, because that is something that tends to fall behind for me. So this sheet here is one that I use to like, these are all the ship designs that we could possibly be making. Externally, I only sell the 2K2Ks for like logistic reasons. Internally, I sell the shielded ships also. So what I do is, because the ships overlap in different ways depending on what ship they are. They overlap, and the stock, like, you know, if you sell one, if you sell a shielded ship, like, you might not be able to sell your unshielded ship anymore because you used them all up. So what I usually try to do is keep this sheet. I do have one. I do have it so it can import from an external source, but it's kind of flaky. So I usually end up just hand typing in the stocks for all of these. Yeah, I do recommend everyone go shields, but you know, we literally can't produce them fast enough. So we can't produce them fast enough for internal demand. So, you know, there's that. So 8 MFLs. I'm looking. All right. Top secret tip here. I am looking to burn down my supply of MFLs and then switch all of our fuel tanks to large fuel tanks instead. For the FF fuel, because they're not bigger or heavier in any appreciable amount, unlike the STL fuel tanks, which are like way bigger and way heavier. So you know, think about it before you make that choice, but LFLs are just generally better. So let's see, MSL count 26, LSL 4 still. Our LFEs, we are 26, 80, 113. LHPs are tough because they are spread around. So let's take a look here. For LHPs, yeah, like see, this is where like life becomes a logistic pain in the ass. There's 70 here, 70, 83, and 227. So 70 plus 83 plus 227. 277. Yeah. So we're low on those plates. SSCs, 700. Let's just call it 700. You can turn those out really fast, so I don't stress about those guys. Like, I have a planet that can just make thousands of them a day. 15 LCBs in stock. HCBs, I think we actually have more than 2. I think we have 1, 2, 3. FSE is 0, QCR is like 9. Yep. The crew quarters. CQMs, we have 3, 4. CQLs, we have 0. Ooh, okay. I don't know how that happened. 4, 0. BR1s, I think we have 1 coming in. So we have 6 plus 6 plus we have 16. Nope, 0. So we have 12 of those and 5 BR2s. FFCs, I accidentally shipped like 22 of them to someone who was supposed to get 2 of them, but I got them back, so we're at 33. And fuel I don't care about. So the nice thing about this sheet is I can say like, oh, I want to make, I want to make 8 of these 2K ships. And you can see that I have enough of a lot of these things. What do I need to order for 8 ships is 300 LHP, SSC, which I'll probably just make myself. Let's go, since we are short on SSC, let's go ahead and queue those up here. So this is my welding planet. First priority at the welding plant is combustion chambers. Then everything else is MHL, and the SSC happens as needed. And I was short on fiber, so because it's 6 every hour and a half, if you turn off the MHL, like you'll go to sleep and you'll come back with 1,000 of them. Boy, what do we want to do? Let's just queue up. Let's just queue up like non-repeating. That's 20. That's 600-ish. So that'll be good. And then we'll send a ship there probably tomorrow. No, let's send a wide cargo bay ship there and send them a bunch of iron and iodine. So the tungsten is just for FFCs. We could switch to something else if we wanted to. I think we do have tungsten left. Oh yeah, you know what? This morning it was only at 50. Now it's 100. So somebody landed and we got more tungsten. We'll send iodine, nice and heavy. Look at that. That's beautiful utilization of the wide cargo bay. We'll do a little iron. And then we maybe should have sent aluminum, but we don't really have aluminum in stock. So we'll send this off, make sure we're using less than 50% fuel, and we'll bring the SSC back tomorrow. Yeah, so the big thing we're going to need here are 4 CQMs and 8 FSE, and the FSEs are going, and the CQMs, I will make a note about that and deal with that. So this is usually how I manage that part of thing, that side of things. So let's do some 5Ks with shields, like 3 of them. CQLs, FSC, and the shield situation. Like, let's update our shield numbers because I have been making shields myself at a very small rate. So that APT, we're at 700, the thermal protection. So 700 of those. AWH, we only have 4, I know that. SRP, we have 20. AHP, I always buy those. I bet we have 0. I really like to put, I like that you can see the items you have 0 of if you're using refined prun. Like that is helpful for this kind of thing. Oh, okay, so AHP we have 227. So let's see, do we have 1? What are we short on? For 1, we need the AWH and the SRPs. For 3, we need this. So what I'll probably do is I'll take this order string. I'll cut out the, I think, yeah, we can do this here. So here's the Discord. We'll do a /project, and we'll do 3 HCB ships. We'll put the item list in with the prices. I'm going to take off the SSCs, and we'll pick up Ant or Hef. And this makes a nice little form where it says like, hey, here are the things we need. Here are the prices, the court prices. These are, all right, I'm going to make sure, are these the external prices? That's the question. So if I like to reimburse people in the corp properly for like, if it's gonna, what we had been doing before was like, oh, this is an internal ship, someone's inside is buying it at a discount, so you get paid less. Which like I'm not. I'm kind of moving away from that and making sure people get good compensation. So I've been like bumping up the internal prices, and then the people in the corp just pay closer to full price and maybe get a subsidy if they're new to the game. And the subsidy is separate from the discounted price. And that way, that helps people. Like I want to make sure people get good compensation for contributing ship components. And if they're not compensated, then it can come out of my pocket as a subsidy, or someone who's in a position that says like, yeah, I want to help out new players by giving them subsidized ship cash, because we have people with lots of cash who can do that. But you don't want like a new player to you don't want to strangle a new player by like, hey, you don't get good compensation. Like you won't be able to make a new base out of your own profit. Uh, so let's see this the CQLs. The CQLs are at 2 million. That seems really high. Is that what we have typed in? CQLs. Yeah, that's the external. Okay, so that's the external sale price. So someone can make CQLs and make good money. The one thing I do have to do is like make sure the prices don't get. I have to spot check prices to make sure they don't go crazy compared to the CX, because if it's too high or too low, and 1.9 million for a CQL looks about in line with what we've got. So like Vac Factory, like maybe he's got 9 of them, maybe he'll pull them down and contribute them because the price is so similar that he can sell them now, as an example. So that's good. Um, if our compensation price was higher than the market, that would be kind of a red flag. All right, so as you can see here, we already have Akin, who's watching the stream also, is filling out the project and sending us contracts. Hopefully sending us contracts soon, or not. Like it's no rush, obviously. But it's a really good system, and you can see that like, oh, he had this certain number of AWH, and someone else is going to have the rest. So it's a way to it's a really nice system for accumulating large quantities of those. Oh, I put an RDL in there. I messed up. Okay. I'm going to take the RDL off because I have 6 RDLs and I just didn't type them into the sheet. So let me fix that quick. In stock 6. All right. And then I'll make a note that those are the external sale prices for everything. So people will know that they're getting good money out of the deal. Okay. All right. Fiddle with my microphone so it hopefully won't drop again, because there's no sound playing from the game. I think it automatically turns off. All right, so we're at the 2-hour mark. I think this is probably a time to close it. If you guys have any last minute questions or anything you want to see or hear about, now's your chance. That says 10,000 plates. That's too many plates. Terminated. Okay, there we go. I would love 10,000 plates if you had them. Oh, okay. We have a question about CLR products. Yeah. Let me pull up the charts for those commodities. So TRN, SWF. So for a long time, these components, TRN, SWF, were entirely things that you had to make on your own, and you'd make them and you'd use them, and no one ever put them on the CX. And I'm super excited to see that changing. Oh yeah, okay, so let's like look at this chart, this year-long chart. Let me make it big for us. I mean, these values were nothing, and then the patch comes out, and suddenly like these objects come to life, which I think like that's such a win-win for the game. Like you're making a market where there wasn't one. Like I don't know. I think this is really fantastic, and it shows that the changes to the market maker were the right choice for the game. Here's the same chart for SWF. There's just like zero action, really low numbers that we're dealing with here. Volumes, yeah, I'm looking at these volume numbers and traded, you know, a couple hundred. And SWF, like you make them 30 at a time, right? So like 1,000 SWF is no big deal. And here we actually see them moving. Yeah, here's 30,000 traded in one day. So the fact that they get action at all is like super great, I think. Um, and I know because they get made so fast, and like here, let's take a look at this. Silicon itself has also really okay. So I guess I see like pretty steady trading volumes and a you know, it's definitely ramped up in price. You know, 50, you know, not quite doubled. Um, so as far as it like crashing in price, I think what's happening is like it's going from something where there was no market to people figuring out what that market is going to be like. And you know, like these prices were probably too high. So because as bases spin up, they will be making, you know, if someone decides to make it just for sale, they'll make a lot of it very fast. These are fast recipes with large output quantities. So I think it's just coming. I think it's viable. I think the prices might be a little volatile as it corrects, but uh, yeah, I think it's exciting. The new market makers are definitely pushing these guys around. And like all of these, the nice thing about all of these intermediate products are that they get used in so many different things. Like there will be people who are able to make ship construction components that couldn't before, just because these are precursors to other interesting things. Uh, and the market makers that we are seeing, uh, air, water reclaimers, life support systems, those are precursors to actual ship components. So yeah, I think it's an exciting time to be playing the game. A lot of new markets showing up. Uh, all right, we got contracts. We got contracts coming in. I usually don't read my contracts, so we don't have time for that. We just click through them. I got some AWS. We got hull plates. Oh yeah. So you can see how fast the money disappears when you're doing stuff like this. Like, right? I was at like 145 when I started the stream. I don't know. Okay, CQL, like, yep, there's 5 million, but hey, crew quarters, it's great. Uh, so yeah, I mean, like, it is super great to have such an amazing corp, like, all working together, and you can sit down and like get. So like the corp operates on like a 24-hour cycle because I was aiming for the morning because Europeans might be awake now still, and also Americans might be awake. So we've got a pretty good variety of people available. But you know, you give something a 24-hour cycle. A lot of people check the game once a day. So they'll go through. What do we got left here? We have a little AWH left and one FSC left. So you know, over the course of 24 hours, everyone in the corp will kind of check in and see what needs to be done to achieve those goals. And you can put ships together in a pretty reasonable amount of time. The only way to close all your windows is to refresh the page. There's a pro tip for you. All right, thanks, folks. I'm gonna call it a stream. Thanks for joining in. This was fun. Thanks for all the questions. Hopefully we'll do this again. See you later. Happy trading.